you still on the survival path? Most of us are. We're hardwired for survival. We're also creatures of habit, and we mostly run on autopilot. And these three things can get in the way of making lasting changes. I'm Phyllis Ginsburg. Some people call me the survival to thrival expert. I've written 2 books on the topic, Brain Makeover and Tired and Hungry No More. And this is a 3-part video series that talks about how survival thinking and the things that can get in the way of making lasting changes can be identified, shifted, and turned into something better. So I'm going to lead you through a self-discovery process today, which I think you're going to be really enlightened to see. If you could get yourself something to write with and something to write on. If not, you can, maybe just use scratch paper, a pen, whatever you've got. Take a moment and get that. But in between, while you're getting that, and before we do the self-discovery, I would like to share with you the Biology of Thoughts chart. I put this chart together originally so that people could understand how much that their thoughts really affect their feelings and their actions. So here's the survival path that most of us are on. It starts with fear and worry. So we're afraid of something, and this isn't really conscious. It's not like you're sitting there totally afraid and worried, but in your subconscious there is fear and worry. And what happens for most of us, if the level is high, you're going to be in fight or flight, which means you're running high levels of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. Your body is feeling stressed, and most importantly, you're in reactive mode, so you're not thinking clearly. For example, let's say that you are in fear and worry about, it could be your health, maybe a child or an adult, an aging parent, somebody who's not doing well physically. It could be your finances, your job. Doesn't matter what it is. When you've got high levels of stress, especially if it's chronic stress, you're going to be running the stress hormones. Well, what happens physiologically in your body is that the blood flow that would normally go to your brain so you can have clearer thinking, and your digestion, like your stomach would get blood flow for digestion, your immune system would be functioning well. All of those things, they cease to get blood flow because what happens is the blood flow goes to your hands and feet, arms and legs, so that you can fight or flee. And way back when, this was really important so that we would survive, as I call survival mode. But today, you can open an email and go into fight or flight if you see an email from your doctor, your boss, or your ex. It happens while you're sitting and you didn't even read the email, like nothing has happened, and we go into fight or flight. That level of stress is not productive, it's not helpful, and it gets in the way of being able to act rather than react. And by act, I mean taking a moment to be able to think about your options, figure out what might be a good solution, what are your next best steps, what can you do to remedy a situation. You don't get any of that when you're on this path. The only thing about this path is your survival. That's really what matters. And the subconscious does a great job at keeping us in survival mode. So I originally asked you to get that something to write with and write on because I want to take you through a self-discovery process now. I'd like you to think about a situation. Just pick one situation that's been bothering you. It could have something to do with your health or your weight, a child, a boss, a coworker, might have to do with your job, your finances, or anything else. Doesn't matter, but just pick one thing. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd like for you to rate how distressing the situation is. If it's super distressing, way up there, it's going to be a 10. Maybe it's an 8 or a 9, but the highest would be a 10. If it's a low level of distress, it would be a 1, 2, or 3. So go ahead, write down what your situation is and rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 of how distressing it is. Good. So now that you've got that, the next thing, and this is an important one, is to ask yourself, how willing am I to do something different about the situation? How willing are you to make some kind of a change with the situation? If it's I'm really willing, I'm all in, it's a 10. If you're not so sure, it's probably a 1, 2, or 3. So if you got that number, how willing are you to do something about the situation? So some of you may have realized, wow, I'm more willing than I thought I was, which is great. Now that might help you to take some action in a different direction. Most of us are in survival mode and we have resistance to doing something different. That's normal. That's when your brain goes into, yikes, we can't do that, there's danger ahead. And it may not be rational, it may not even be something you're aware of, but this is what happens. What I'd like for you to do next on your piece of paper is to write down whatever thoughts come to mind when you think about these two numbers that you wrote down. How distressing your situation is, and if you're willing to do something about it. So take a moment and write down any thoughts, and they could have something to do with doubts, fears, past experiences, past failures, anything that comes up that reminds you of why maybe you've done it before and it didn't succeed. So take a moment and write down any thoughts that come up. Great. Okay, so you may have come up with some examples like I mentioned, and that's your survival brain trying to keep you safe, even if it's not ideal in the way you want your situation to be. Now that you have this information, it's an opportunity for you to take a look at if there is something here that you got clarity on, you got some information that you can say, wow, now I understand why this works the way it does and how it's impacting me, and be able to overcome it. Sometimes just by acknowledging what's going on, you can shift it. It is possible to shift a problem, a situation, once you get to the heart of the matter. And that's what I love to do. When you're in the situation, if it's in your subconscious, it's something that could even be from childhood, which the pattern often does get instilled in our subconscious early on in life. You may not be able to figure it out on your own because you're too close to the situation and you don't have access to it. But this is what I do best at, is being able to assess a situation and get to the root cause of it quickly, then be able to shift it and introduce new possibilities so that you could be up here on the happy path where you're happy, or at least pleasant, have feel-good hormones, serotonin and dopamine running through your body, you're calm and relaxed, and you're able to take action from your wisest self, from the ability to have access to your intuition and guidance and problem solving and memory and all the things, because you have adequate blood flow to your brain, you're calm and relaxed, you're not tense, and having all the challenges that go with survival mode. So I want to tell you about a new workshop that I'm starting in a couple weeks, Creating Lasting Change. 4 weeks to shifting what's not working for you. You'll get clear on what it is that is the root cause, and I will help you shift it. I'll be working with people individually, along with guiding them through a workbook. It's almost like having a private session with me. So if you know and you're ready to take action, that you really want to change that one thing that's been bothering you, or if you know you want to do it and you're not willing, don't let that stop you, because the unwillingness is just the survival thinking. It's the fear and worry. It may be that you are afraid it will be, it's impossible, or it'll take too long. That is so not true. My experience of working with people is that we can shift things fast once we get to the core of it. It doesn't have to take a long time, and you can get relief. So if you're interested, I've opened up the enrollment today, but you can go check it out at lastingchange.eventbrite.com. That's lastingchange.eventbrite.com, and I'll put it in the comments below the video. The next topic that I'm going to speak on is on Saturday, October 5th at noon, and that's going to be on autopilot. So I hope you'll join me. Lasting change is possible. You can be healthier, happier, have more satisfying relationships, be more productive, all the benefits that go with being on the happy path once that you shift from survival thinking. I look forward to seeing you next time.